HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
A single-engine aircraft crashed in waters off Grand Bahama, killing 4. Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition. I'm Andrew Knowles. Thanks for tuning in. It was supposed to have been a routine sightseeing flight, but it ended in tragedy for the group of visitors. Our Megan Shepard was on the scene as emergency crews rushed to the site.
Early Sunday morning, 4 tourists were about to go on an aerial sightseeing tour of the Grand Bahama Island. It is believed that they then incurred engine problems, which resulted in the fatal plane crash just 4 miles west of the Grand Bahama International Airport. Officer in charge of Grand Bahama ACP Emric Seymour says information of the crash was received around 11 a.m. that a foreign registered single-engine aircraft had crashed. The group consisted of 2 males and 2 females.
Information suggests that at some point during the course of the flight taking off, they experienced some engine problems, and which ultimately led to perhaps the crash of the aircraft. We would have visited the scene, which is some 4.5 miles west of the Grand Bahama International Airport, where we discovered the mangled crash, and of course 4 unfortunate souls who would have perished in this unfortunate incident.
Seymour says it is believed that the tourists were on island for about a week. Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville, was on the scene as rescue crews and police officers conducted their recovery. Minister Darville commending those agencies for their swift response.
It's really a sad day in Grand Bahama. Anytime we hear of a tragedy of this nature, it all really puts shock in everybody. But what I'd like to say is that the Royal Bahamas Police Force, in conjunction with BASRA, was at the scene at a very fast moment. All of the necessary authorities from the Rand Memorial Hospital, resident pathologists, as well as all of the individuals responsible in the recovery process was in place.
Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Obi Wilchcombe, also noting the efficiency of the residents and response crews and sending condolences to the families of the deceased.
When we got word of the incident, obviously it does cause everyone to stop and pause. You're having visitors here who've been here for several days now. They've been to other islands, I'm told, and they were taking a look at the island to see the beauty of it, and to lose their lives tragically is just something that will cause all of us to pause and think and say a prayer for them and for their families.
Investigations are continuing into this fatal plane crash. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
The last major plane crash happened in October of 2010 when a small twin-engine Cessna crashed into Lake Killarney, killing 9. Also from Grand Bahama, a Freeport man has been arrested in connection with a significant drug fine. Officers there say the 42-year-old was taken into custody after being found with more than 100 pounds of marijuana, a gun, and ammunition. The suspect was arrested around 11 last night after police searched an apartment in the Lucaya area where they discovered 2 black duffel bags and suitcases containing multiple packages of suspected marijuana wrapped in plastic. Officers say they also discovered half a pound of suspected marijuana hidden in a freezer before coming across a 9mm handgun and 29 rounds of ammunition. The suspected marijuana is estimated at 149 pounds and has a street value of $149,000. In news from Eleuthera tonight, where a 77-year-old male Canadian visitor was airlifted to the United States after he was attacked by a shark earlier today. Reports say the Canadian tourist was on board a fishing boat at sea at Cape Eleuthera with friends when he was attacked by the shark, resulting in him receiving injuries to the leg and arm. He was rushed to the Rock Sound Clinic and later airlifted to Fort Lauderdale for further medical attention. The labor climate in the Bahamas could remain calm, at least for the time being. The National Congress of Trade Unions is describing talks this week with the Prime Minister as productive. NCTUB President Jennifer Isaacs-Dotson, the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union President Stefano Green, Airport, Airline and Allied Workers Union President Nellarine Harding, and representatives from the Bahamas Union of Teachers met with Prime Minister Perry Christie, imploring him to step into the midst of a series of what they consider industrial breaches. However, following that meeting, Mrs. Isaacs-Dotson says they are satisfied that resolution to their grievances can be achieved.
The meeting itself went very well. We had a very open and frank discussion on the issues, and he has given a resolve to deal with and speak to the relevant ministers that the particular matters relate to, and to see how best we can resolve the issues. Of course, he is going off the island, and I think the Minister of Labour is also going off the island, but they have left some directives for some things to happen. So we look forward to seeing some resolution happening with all of the issues that all of us can live with.
Now, Isaacs-Dotson, who hinted at strike action last week if the issues aren't resolved, said the union will not wait indefinitely for the Prime Minister to act.
After speaking, you have to give everybody a chance to resolve the issue, and we will give the government the opportunity to deal with the matters at hand, and we will reassess where we are in the next 2 weeks.
Well, the huge financial loss of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation and new policy initiatives still have management and the union up in arms. While the corporation is seeking to implement cost-saving measures, union representatives say they have also been pushing to save the corporation significant sums. But as Kendino Knowles reports, both sides remain at odds.
BEC Chairman Leslie Miller says he's doing all he can to stop hemorrhaging at the state-run electricity corporation, which has reported losses of over $22 million in the last fiscal year.
Every penny that comes into BEC and every penny that leaves BEC belongs to the Bahamian people. I will make that clear. So this ain't no fight with no union. This is a fight to save money for the people of the Bahamas, to enable us to lower the electricity bill, to take this burden off their backs. Right now we got over 5,000 people still owe the light.
And in order to save the corporation millions, Mr. Miller cut out benefits for BEC workers who were receiving sick pay from both BEC and the National Insurance Board. Additionally, Mr. Miller has advised the unions that come January, the corporation will ask employees to contribute to their pension fund and medical insurance plan, which BEC has been subsidizing on its own for at least the last decade. And when the line staff union said days ago that there are other ways to skin a cat, here's what it meant.
Abaco has a brand new generating plant that was designed to run on bunker, the cheaper fuel. The government at the time decided to put it on diesel. Obviously, one of the recommendations would be to put it back on the cheaper fuel.
And according to Bahamas Electrical Workers Union President Stefano Green, this, along with 26 other recommendations which were submitted to the board at BEC, will not only help save the corporation millions, but help lower the costs passed on to consumers.
We know that there's about $10 million worth of system losses, majority of which is in theft. That's $10 million a year that we're talking about. With that $10 million, obviously the corporation will show a big turnaround.
Fuel cost management is another way to save the corporation money, something Managerial Union President Clinton Minnis says is already proving to be successful.
We get on our employees to make sure, listen here, fuel is the goal. So we don't need machines running that's going to cost the Bahamian public fuel surcharge that is out of the roof. And so we've been very diligent dealing with fuel cost management.
And this, Mr. Minnis is certain, is also saving BEC money. So why not sit with the union and discuss further the 27 recommendations it put forward?
It's useless meeting with the union. I've been meeting with them now for almost 16 months. It's a game and a gimmick that they play. You're not going to get anywhere, so we simply enforce it. Go to court, go to court. I'm sure that any reasonable judge, knowing the economic situation of BEC and the country at large, I would love for them to make a determination on the way forward with a company that's almost bankrupt, that's going to lose $22 million that belongs to the people of the Bahamas. Let's go to court.
Kendino Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Bahamians joining in a global mourning, an act of remembrance today for those who gave their lives unselfishly in service to the Commonwealth during two costly and historically significant world wars. The annual Remembrance Day service was held this morning at historic Christchurch Cathedral. A number of dignitaries, including Governor General His Excellency Sir Arthur Folkes and Lady Folkes, Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis, members of the armed forces, youth and civic groups, and members of the British Legion Bahamas gathered to recognize the invaluable contributions of those who served to preserve the freedoms we now enjoy. Retired Anglican priest Father James Moultrie, in delivering this morning's sermon, said Remembrance Day is not a feast of sadness, but one of great hope and confidence.
While many of their names have fallen into forgottenness, their service has not, and today we remember and we salute them. The image of Jesus in John chapter 10 as the Good Shepherd is a good and comforting one for a day like this, when we remember those who have given their lives for the freedoms which we now enjoy and which many of us take for granted. That image of Jesus assures us that he not only feeds us and gives us to drink, but he also protects us as we travel through the dark valleys of war into the fullness of life.
As is custom, following the solemn service, there was a procession from the church to the cenotaph in the Garden of Remembrance for the wreath-laying ceremony. Government dignitaries, uniformed services, civic and youth organizations, and war veterans took part in the traditional ceremonial activities. They were joined by family members of Bahamians who lost their lives fighting for the Commonwealth during the wars. Coming up, the investment climate looking up for the Bahamas and U.S. travel agents exposed to the Exuma travel market. You're watching the weekend edition of the Bahamas Tonight.